All right, if there's one thing that I know for sure, it is that there are a lot of people moving to Denver right now. In fact, more millennials are moving to Denver than anywhere else in the country. That's kind of crazy. Also very dope. Denver's awesome. What can I say? And in this video, I'm talking about things to expect when you're moving to Denver, and even more specifically, how you should expect it to go if you're going to buy a house when you move here. And that idea is something that we do better than anybody else, so stick around. How's it going, y'all? Welcome to Denver. My name is Jesse Lynch, but this YouTube channel is everything that you're gonna need to know if you're moving to Denver or if you're just buying a house here for the first time. If that appeals to you and you're here for the first time, do us both a favor, subscribe to the channel, click the bell to get notified, give the video a thumbs up, and say what's up in the comments. I would appreciate it very much. I am one member of a real estate team called Welcome to Denver. I make these videos to help you find a place to call home, and my business partner Jen is the hardest working real estate agent in the game. She will absolutely crush it for you, I promise. So reach out to us on the number or the email that you see on the screen, or just visit our website, welcometodenver.co. All right, let's do this thing. Okay, the way that I see it, there are basically 5 ways that people make their move happen here. And there are sort of varying degrees of difficulty, risk, trust in us to do our jobs well, and I suppose money spent as well. And really the first way, and it might actually be the riskiest way, but it is a way that a lot of people do it because people have lives, people are busy, and while a move is a very important thing, it's also taxing and people have a lot of stuff to do. And so that's where we come in, and really this is where like the most trust in us has to be put to do our job very, very, very well and make sure that we're communicating extremely well. And that's because the first type is basically fully sight unseen, okay? But obviously not fully sight unseen. You can go online and you can look at pictures of a house. That's kind of like seeing it. But you know, you've never fully been in the house, but even another step, maybe you haven't been in Denver, or maybe you haven't been in Denver in quite a long time. So both the neighborhood and the home, you haven't actually set foot in recently, right? So no matter what route you take, if you reach out to us, you're gonna start with a Zoom call. And so for sure, that's gonna be with Jen. If you're in a hurry or if you're into this idea, it can be with a lender as well. And it might be with me if I'm not out making a video, but I do spend a lot of time doing these videos. Okay, and that initial Zoom call, it's gonna be probably 45 minutes to an hour long. And basically, it's gonna be an introduction, but also it's just gonna be to get the show on the road, right? Get everything moving in the right direction. And even if the lender is on that call, you'll still have to go to the next step, which is to get a pre-approval. And fundamentally, a pre-approval is like a letter that the lender gives you, basically provides us, so that when we make an offer, we can say, this person is actually approved and can actually afford this house that we're making an offer on. Making an offer without a pre-approval, you might as well not, if I'm being totally honest. And another thing, there really isn't too early of a time to reach out to us. And specifically, there isn't too early of a time to be talking with a lender, especially if you've never bought a house before, which is fairly common. We do help a lot of people who are relocating and also buying their first home. It's kind of like our specialty, But to be quite honest, we would rather you reach out, 3 months early, 6 months early, before you're even beginning to look, and getting locked in with that lender ahead of time, so when the time comes, you're just ready to go. We would rather have you do that than show up right when you're ready to look and be like, okay, I gotta get pre-approved. Because what if there's something wrong? What if there's something in your credit report that you weren't aware of? What if your debt to income is a little bit off and then you have to pay something down, but then the credit report will take a little while to catch up? It's a whole thing, and for sure, we would rather you be ready, be prepared, so we can hit the ground running. And the next step is to go look at homes, except you're not here, you're not in Denver. So Jen goes out and does these very discerning, very honest, very truthful, very like, we are trying to be your eyes and your nose and I suppose your ears because you are not there. And yeah, we'll have a camera and we'll have a microphone. And certainly if you're only looking at like one of those Matterhorn, you know, those 360 virtual tours of a home, which are very cool by the way, but the thing about them is that yeah, they're thorough. You can sort of get a feel of what the space is like. Again, you're not going to know what it smells like, but more than that, you're not going to know if your neighbor is a brand new Amazon fulfillment center. I mean, yeah, there's Google Street, right? There's Google Maps and all that stuff. What if that home just got a new neighbor that thinks their backyard is a junkyard, you know? Specifically, that's where Jen comes into play and sort of our expertise in knowing that this whole thing, especially this sight unseen thing, is very scary. So how can we assure you that you're making the right choice? So we do these very discerning showings. We show you the outside of the house and we drive around the neighborhood for you as well. You know, we'll drive several blocks around those neighborhoods. We can drive up and down the alley. We can drive to the closest, Target or whatever you're into. But you will know what's up. You will have a much better sense of that house than you would if you were just looking, online, I promise. Okay, and then in this fully sight unseen situation, we'll obviously be able to make offers for you. You'll obviously be able to sign everything digitally. And then if it does get accepted, it depends on if you're gonna have an inspection period or not. And that's totally up to your risk tolerance and how you feel about the home. Maybe if it's a super new home, maybe you're not worried about that, but maybe you are. We would always recommend that you get an inspection, but there are certain times where people waive it, maybe to make your offer more enticing, or I don't know, maybe just because you're, a cowboy and you like doing risky stuff. I don't know. I literally can't think of any other reason why somebody would not have an inspection except to potentially make their offer more enticing. Okay, and in this sight unseen situation, if you're getting an inspection, we will show up in your stead for the inspection. We will take videos of the walkthrough. We will basically just be a virtual version of you. You could potentially be on a Zoom call with us live as well. We can record to the cloud, the whole thing. And again, we'll just make sure that you feel really good and really educated about the whole thing. You definitely don't have to be in Denver during the appraisal. And really the first time you're gonna probably want to be here potentially is closing. And even in closing, there are ways to do that remote. Whether that be we're using a title company that's sort of national, that maybe has a branch in Denver and also a branch where you live, or you can also let a friend or a family member or theoretically one of us act as power of attorney and sign for you. Again, it all sort of depends on your plans. If you're basically gonna move to Denver on closing day anyways, that's fine. Then you should probably just be there at closing, make it easier. But if you aren't gonna move into your place for like a month or two, then maybe you just wanna do it all remote, close, and then have your closing, but then you don't have to get here in a rush. Totally up to you. But again, it can basically fundamentally all be done sight unseen if you're up for that. And maybe you have a friend in town, maybe you have a family member in town, and maybe they can, give you a little bit of reassurance that the house is the kind of house that you're gonna want, neighborhood is the neighborhood that you're gonna want, etc. But again, we will make absolutely certain that the neighborhood you end up in is the right neighborhood for you, all right? Cool. Okay, the next one is sort of a hybrid sight unseen and not sight unseen. And that would basically be that everything else is the same. We look at houses virtually. Jen does the same great virtual showings. We get you under contract in a house. And then the first time that you come to Denver or the first time that you step foot in the house is during the inspection, right? So the beauty of an inspection is that you sort of have the option or the contingency period, right? So we get it under contract while you are wherever you live, and then boom, you book a flight to Denver and you make sure you get here in time for that inspection. And that way you can be a part of that whole process. You can step foot in the house, you can smell the house, and you can make sure that in fact your neighbor is not an oil refinery or whatever. And then you can head back home to, wherever you live. And then from there on, everything else can be remote. Again, closing could not be remote, whatever. So that's sort of the hybrid sight unseen, but also not fully sight unseen. And I think probably that is the most effective method of doing this, where you're gonna feel really comfortable because you've been to the house, you've actually been to the neighborhood, but we're also not wasting a ton of your time, with you coming for showings every weekend or something like that. If you're remote, that seems like a total pain in the butt, but it does sort of lead me to the next thing, which would be, potentially you travel to Denver for a week or two and you just get after it looking for houses, right? And I kind of tend to think that this is for people who are sort of in a hurry and maybe not super picky about their type of house, right? Like they know, I just want a pretty straightforward house, or maybe like a new build and you know that there's some stock out there and you just want to see which one you want to get. That's cool too. But basically you come into town and you try to look at like 10, 20 houses if you can, if there's inventory available, you know, that suits your needs. And then if your goal is to actually get something under contract, you're gonna have to write very, very, very competitive offers. But luckily, Jen is an absolute killer and she will help you win the house. But no slam dunks, okay? There are no slam dunks. There's no way to guarantee you're gonna get a house unless maybe if you can pay $200K over all cash. Even then, somebody could write a love letter, you know? You never know. Okay, and then the fourth one is basically that you find some short-term accommodations here, right? Maybe you're hot to trot to get to Denver and you just are like, we gotta get out there or whatever. You have a job coming up, you gotta be there in 2 months. So you're like, all right, we're just gonna find a spot to land for a few months. And then once you get out here, you're just gonna work really hard to find a new house, you know, in the first few months of you living there. And that would probably, you know, include using a platform like Airbnb or VRBO, or potentially you might be able to find a furnished residence, you know, some other way. Okay, and then the very last one is basically that, you know, you move out here, you just get a long-term rental. Maybe you're not even 100% sure that you wanna really stay in Denver. If that's the case, it's totally fine. Absolutely understand that. And when the time comes for you to buy a house, we will be happy to jump in and crush it for you. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Again, if you're moving to the Denver area, you gotta get a hold of us. Call the number on the screen, email us on the screen, or go to our website, welcometodenver.co. And while you're at it, subscribe to the channel, click the bell to get notified, give this video a thumbs up, and say what's up in the comments. We look forward to meeting you and look forward to welcoming you to Denver, Colorado. Take it easy, y'all.